Hello, hockey fans. The Minnesota Hockey Connection show is on the air. We're at PACT-TV studios in Duluth, Minnesota, in City Hall. It's Monday, November 6th. Boy, we vote for mayor tomorrow. I wonder what's going to happen. But we got a guest here that I've had a few years. He's the head coach of Duluth East, but he has another job to go along with it. He's an assistant coach for the Minnesota Wilderness. And I don't know how he does it, but he puts in full days at the hockey rink. And Steve Pitoscia, glad to meet you again.
Thanks for having me, Jerry.
Yeah. So I bet you're excited. Like next Monday, practice starts for high school hockey.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to get back with those guys for sure.
Right. Well, let's talk a little bit about Duluth East. I went to the Elite League. I've seen the North team about 6, 7 times, and they had about 5 offensive players on that North team, the base, I think it's called. And I like the way they play, and that's going to help them coming into this new season.
Yeah, we got. I think we had 5 forwards playing in the Elite League this year, and it was a good experience for them. I know they all had good falls working there, and yeah, we're excited to see what those guys bring back to our team.
Yeah. So I see you lost a lot of good D though.
We sure did.
Yeah, Grant Winkler. Hey, have you played Aberdeen?
We did. They beat us down at the showcase.
Oh, that's right. That's when you had the slow start, but then you made a couple trades and someone came up from the USHL and things turned around.
Yeah.
I think that's the most. You guys went through a 10-game winning streak, I think.
Yeah, that just got snapped last Friday down in St. Cloud.
That happens. You can't go all year round. Even the pros are that way. You know, you can be the best team in the league, and then all of a sudden, whoo! Look at Boston last year, the best record ever, and then first round they're out.
Yeah, it's tough to win, that's for sure.
Every game you got to be ready.
Seems like the other team always wants to win too. So isn't that odd?
Yeah. Well, I'll get to that a little while later with the Wilderness, but. I was looking at your schedule and for Duluth East, and I was seeing a lot of good teams you got. You started out the season like pretty close to always right there with White Bear Lake. You go every year down there, and they come up here the next year and that.
Yep.
And their best players coming back.
Yep.
Leighton World. I talked to his dad a couple weeks ago, and so I knew that for sure. But I was out in Pittsburgh, and there's about 15 really good high school kids still playing there. I mean, they're playing. We don't know if they're going to be before and after because if they're playing good, these teams in the USHL, it's a business, and they want to keep them.
Absolutely.
So, and a lot of these kids are thinking they're going before and after, but, maybe I better stay. And the competition's a little bigger, and it might help develop my game. But just the opposite. If they're not playing every game and they were thinking of staying in the USHL, maybe they better go back to high school and play.
Yeah, those are decisions that are, families make based on what's best for their family. And, what kids do are a lot of them have their advisors now that kind of, help steer them as to what they're going to do. And quite honestly, those decisions are made through those people more than anybody. So, advisors and families, and then we end up finding out what they do after it's all said and done. So, depending on the kid and the situation, it's tough to say what's right and what's wrong all the time. I'm certainly a big proponent of high school hockey because I coach it and I believe in it. And but if someone wants to go off somewhere and try a different route, then best of luck to them. And we just hope that our great product that we have here in the state of Minnesota just survives is really the biggest thing for me, is seeing it continue on at the level that it has for all these years. So
yeah, I wish it'd just be a little more simpler. Like back in my time, you just rink rat in whatever league you're in when you're growing up. You go play in your winter league, and then you're just out in the ice all the time and you're having fun. Yeah. Nowadays, it's almost like a business. And I mean, like you say, these advisors are on them. The parents are getting involved, and it gets nuts sometimes. And Boy, I don't know if I want to go through all that. And then you never know if you're going to make it, even though you might be the best player, because the mental aspect now is so much greater.
Absolutely. That's, it's there's so many talented kids, that can put the puck in the top of the net, at will. So how do you separate yourself, from that? And so there's a lot of guys that put a lot of time and effort into it, and they got a lot of people working for them too. So
Well, just my opinion, I wish it was more my way. Instead, like down in the cities, there's at least 5,000 kids that are paying big money to go to camps and all year round camps, 8-month camps till their high school season or Bantam camp. Season opens up, and they're going 5 days a week, 3 hours. They're doing everything now, like just it's like your team in the wilderness and going on up college and pro with you got film, you got skating coaches, you got shooting coaches, you got it's just crazy to me.
yeah, well, I remember when Nate McKinnon was down at Shattuck, they flew his strength and conditioning coach in once a month from Montreal so that he could keep tabs on him, and around the rest of the country, that's kind of how it is, everybody's got a shooting coach and a skating coach and a lifting coach, and
It's just crazy to me.
yeah, but you know what? USA Hockey, quite honestly, hasn't done itself any favors. Why, $1,000 skates and $400 one-piece sticks. There's so much money invested just to get started.
Well,
It's
now
not really a shock that you're going to continue to, if you're going to go down that road, you're going to continue to invest.
they always said it's not a poor man's sport.
It certainly hasn't become that anymore.
Yeah.
It's not that any longer. That's
Right.
for sure. It's
now-
too bad because that's my biggest concern with all of this is how many good athletes are we losing because mom and dad can't afford to buy $1,000 skates and $400 sticks
And pay for the camps and pay for this and the traveling, and it's crazy.
Yeah, no doubt.
But going back at your schedule, boy, you got, well, in my opinion, when I start the season, if the players come back to these teams that are playing out in juniors right now, you got four of the top, my top 5 teams that I got. You got Wayzata, you got Chanhassen, and that's a team that, I don't know. I heard a lot when I was out in Pittsburgh that a lot of these players aren't coming back. But now, so I just wait until November 13th, first day of practice.
Yep, that's right.
But Minnetonka, no matter what happens, how many come back and how many say, they're going to be right up there 1-2 with Wayzata. And then Rogers has a great, they got about 5 great juniors. Yep. And then you got them at the end of the season. So they're like seniors by that time, and it's just this is good competition, and it's only make your team grow too.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can't count out Grand Rapids. Not only are they going to be a solid team, but I have no doubt that Grant's going to have them playing outstanding all year long because he's a very good coach, and not to mention the rivalry there. Andover's going to be no slouch, of course. Those two alone in our section are dynamite hockey clubs. And, I think Eden Prairie is another team that, they were pretty good last year. They played a lot of sophomores. He's got rid of most of his seniors going into last year. So he started with kind of a base, and they did a nice job, and that team got better. So, yeah, I like our schedule. And even Mounds View, that's John Conlon down there, that kid's he's a pretty good player, and he can carry that team. So I think we got a dynamite schedule.
So I see you play Grand Rapids twice. That's good. And we got a new team in AA up here, Rockbridge.
Yeah.
And they're going to be, I remember last year in sections in 7A, they had a lot of big kids, and it seemed like most of them were just juniors and that. So that's a big team, I think.
It is, and Benny's doing a really nice job of blending all those communities together into that one school, and we put them on the schedule twice this year. Number one because we want to support Northern Minnesota hockey and these teams that are trying to survive in AA. We wanted to support that as much as we could, and of course Benny being an old hound, we gotta take care of our own too, right? So.
But 2 things happened that was kind of surprised me is Cloquet went down, and it's kind of sad.
Yeah.
I wish, and I don't know, just growing up in the north and watching hockey so many years, and man, it's just not right not seeing East and Cloquet and filling the stadiums, and those days are gone, I think.
Yeah, it was a shock to hear that they were moving down, but everybody's got to do what they think's right for their
Right,
program. So.
right. But you got one private school, so that's kind of a East tradition. You don't like, I don't know if you don't like, you just don't schedule private schools. I think the last coach was the same way. Let's see, who else do I like here? Well, is Centennial going to be all right, you think?
I'll be interested to see what they have. Harper Searles is going to go back.
It's going to
so,
help. I mean, that's going to help. But
yeah. So I'll be interested to see what they have. They play in such a tough conference and tough section that they get tested every night. So I have no doubt that they'll be ready to play us when we go down there to take them on. That's for sure.
But another surprise was Duluth Denfield going up, and boy, I don't know what's going to happen there. That's going to be a hard year. Plus, they're getting their schedule a little better too, and that's I don't know. In the West Side, I don't know. They just don't get the numbers. It seems like.
Yeah, you know what? I applaud them for trying to do something to build what they got going on out there. I think they're just trying to help with get their schedule and hope those things will help entice their numbers to maybe grow a little bit. And someone moving to Duluth might look and say, all right, there's another AA school here, maybe this is where we should go. And so they're trying, and I know their youth families are trying hard to really keep that program going. And I for one sure hope it does, because we can't afford to lose any more varsity sweaters in this town. And we need the opportunities for kids to play. So
I think they've been there about. Jago's been there, the head coach, Del Jago, and then we got Johnson and Ryan. Yep. They've done an excellent job for what they've had over the years and that. And so you got to applaud them for what they've done and sticking to the program, keeping the hockey atmosphere big out there. And
yeah, they've developed a lot of pride in the program with the kids they do have out there. They've done a nice job, and those kids, have been taken care of in that sense, where they've got coaches that care and show up every day and have helped those guys improve. I don't think anybody could argue that Denfield teams get better over the years. They do. From the start of the season to the end of the year, those teams always get better. So.
Right. And every year they seem to have one or two just really Class A players, and their attitude and everything staying in Denfield. A lot of them when they're good at Denfield, a lot of people come at them, to go someplace else, and I applaud that too.
Absolutely.
It's good for high school hockey I love it when a player stays in their high school and has fun finish it, because I always say, what's the hurry? If you're good, they know who you are already, and you'll get chances.
Andy Larson's a prime example of that, right? I know plenty of teams that tried to talk him into leaving, and he wanted to stay and play with his buddies. And to me, that's as we watch Duluth amateur hockey wrestle with the all-city hockey and that sort of stuff, to me, that's as much of a telltale sign that, what's important to these kids is it's not the wins and losses when you're playing at the rink, it's playing with your buddies.
Right.
And we don't need to have an all-city team that goes and competes in tournaments down in the Metro and Fargo. Like that shouldn't be what our concern is. Our concern should be towards developing a game that as many kids as possible want to play for as long as possible, and not just focus on what's the elite athlete is going to get, because those kids are going to be so far and few between. And I don't know, all the science that Minnesota Hockey or USA Hockey puts out says that things like competition and that don't matter until they're past that 13-year-old age. And so worrying about squirt, what letter you have next to your squirt, to me seems like a big miss, in my opinion, when we've got such an amazing infrastructure here of rinks that we could have those neighborhoods come together and work together and create that community, which builds your program, right? And it creates a great base and foundation for your program. So maybe that kid who's not a superstar in squirt but loves the game because you've created the right, culture and attitude around how you raise your players, that when that light clicks on, when he's all of a sudden 14, 15 years old and he's a peewee or a bantam, now we're going to start losing those kids that those diamonds in the rough that we don't
Right.
see until it's their time to start to flourish. You
Yeah,
know?
developing that.
So that's my concern with what's going on around here with the hockey programs. I think the citywide stuff is a big mistake for us.
Have fun.
Yes.
Have fun. All the way through high school. Then it gets where it's just a different business when you get out there. And why you in the hurry? Have fun. You only have one life, so have fun.
That's right.
So, going back at your team this coming year, do you already have your captains picked or something?
Yep. Thomas Gunderson, Noah Tang, Wyatt Peterson, and Caden Cole are the 4 captains. For the
Okay,
Lions this
they
year.
all played in Upper Midwest Elite League, so they're going to be top forwards, and yeah, you got a lot of offense there.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to for sure have 2 good lines, and who knows, you'll have another line by the time mid-season and that, and by developing some of the other kids and that, and you got a lot of games. You can play a lot of different kids in the first half. So
Yeah, and our sophomores had a really good summer. All of them did. So the way I've got some guys that are going to vie for some time up there, especially on the blue line. It was a good summer, and we got Luke Anderson coming back from
That's
Chaska. That'll help us back there.
right
and
on
then
the D, yep.
Christian Cochran and Brody Olson returning on the blue line. So and this will be Brody's 3rd year already as a junior.
Yeah, I liked him.
And so, I think obviously it's tough to replace a Grant Winkler, and it's tough to replace a Henry Murray and Grady Downs and Aiden Spinningsby. Those 4 did just a tremendous job last year on our back end, and even Nathaniel Tang did a nice job when we put him back there. So graduating all those guys, absolutely, that'll be a challenge we have to face. But this summer, we had a good summer with guys rising to it. So looking forward to seeing what they have to bring. And, we're bringing back both of our goalies. So
Yeah, you have your goalie played pretty good last year. I liked him.
Yep.
So he's competitive.
Very much so.
Yeah. So when you do practice in high school, you got JV practice in high school, and one will go first and the other one different days, I guess. But during a game, do you have a system where after the JV game, you might on the 3rd period pull a couple players out, they're playing pretty good in JV, and bring them up to the 4th line or 5th or 6th D or something like that?
Yeah, so as a program, we carry 7 lines, and so that we can have a swing line play some JV and then come up and be our 4th line on the varsity team.
Okay.
The first year, I actually carried 2 full teams, and I felt that we weren't able to get that 4th line on the varsity enough time. So
Right.
we decided to go with 1 less line, and last year I think that helped because we were still able to get those kids, the game time in that JV game where they weren't necessarily getting it as a 4th line
Right.
on varsity, but they still, they practice, we practice with 4 lines and 8D at the
Right.
varsity practice so that we can keep things going pretty well. But we're always switching guys back and forth.
But normally you're always gonna play 3 lines. So, and with the big teams, you almost have to.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like the Wazetas and Tonkas, but yeah, that's good. They give them extra. It's nice for them to come up. They feel better, builds their confidence once in a while, and that shows that I was playing good here. I got to keep going like this.
Yep, no doubt.
So
And part of it too with that line, it's just having them, being willing to take the role that line has, right? So our 3rd and 4th line, they're not necessarily asked to do the same thing as our 1st and 2nd line are. So you got to be willing to maybe sacrifice a little bit on the scoring end and take a little more pride in your defense when you're going to go out in those positions. So.
Well, that's why some of these first-round draft picks from Minnesota, when they go to college, they got to learn more of the game. That they got to play 200 feet. If you don't play 200 feet, the next level from college, you're not going to be around.
No doubt, absolutely.
You can't. No, I'm not going to get into it.
I mean, you're not. Quite honestly, you're not going to survive junior hockey if you're not willing to play 200
Right.
feet nowadays. There's just too many guys, and willing to do it.
Let's move into that. How did it ever get started where you became an assistant coach? I know the coach last year is over in Fargo Force, and he's doing a great job over there. They're the #1 team in the USHL record-wise.
They just lost their first game after a 10-game
but
win
still.
streak too.
It's kind of funny. You get streaks going, but hey,
Ten's
everything
kind of
has to
the mark.
end sometimes.
That's right.
Just get started again. You know how to do it.
That's right.
So, how did it get started? Where did something happen that they came down? Where hey, the new coach, St. Clair, right? Last name St. Clair.
Yep, Colton St. Clair.
Yeah. You coached with him before down in Omaha.
Yeah.
So since you're in this area, did you come in right away, or did you come in after a few games, or?
Well, he hired me. Well, when he first got hired, he gave me a call and asked me if I would come in and help. As you know, this business involves a lot of trust, and so to have people that you trust to support you to do this is big, and we have a great relationship. I lived in his apartment for the first month. I was in Omaha, and we worked together for 2 years down there. And so we have that trust with each other. And so when he first got in the job, he had hired me on to be their director of player development, which was going to be a lot of what I'm doing anyway, was doing film and skill work with guys at practice. And then the organization made a change after the showcase to replace the assistant coach that was there, and asked me if I would take on the job, and I was certainly willing to do it, but they had to understand that my priority was to East High School and those kids, and I wasn't going to bail on them, a month before the season started. So if they were willing to work with me on that, then I would love the opportunity, and they have been nothing but amazing when it comes to that. So that's how I ended up there, and it's been awesome all fall.
So how do you work it out? I mean, you can almost do every practice with East because you do the earlier practices with the Wilderness. But then let's say there's a game on both of you, the priority would be Duluth East, right?
Always, yep. It'll always be Duluth East, and most of my work with the Wilderness is done in the morning. We get to the rink about 7 a.m. and we practice at 11. We have our meetings at 10, and then we'll do some stuff after, and then. The earliest I practice at East is 4, so as long as I'm there by 3:15, which is not a problem.
Right.
I'll miss probably a dozen games with the Wilderness, and they knew that ahead of time, and but I should be at every practice and continue my responsibilities with video and other responsibilities too, making sure that the kids get to their reading. We work with the schools, and so it's making sure that the kids are getting out to do their community responsibilities, and it's a lot of recruiting stuff too, bringing in kids from other leagues to come skate with us, for future tryouts. There's a lot of, as a lot of junior teams will do throughout the season, they'll bring in kids to practice for 2-3 days just to kind of get a look at them and get to know the kid a little bit, and then send them back to their team. So next year when the draft comes around, you've got an idea of what you're working with. So.
Right. So coaching high school and coaching juniors, do you coach any different? With these kids, is a different way of coaching because they're older and they're more, how can I say it, developed because they're playing junior hockey? And
well, I would say that yes. The answer to that is yes and no. Yes, in the sense that a lot of the details and things, stuff when it comes to hockey is pretty universal, and so teaching the good habits and good practice habits, good game habits, good details with their stick, all that sort of stuff. So absolutely. My role at the Wilderness is an assistant coach, though. So I'm in a supportive role of the head coach and following out what his plan is and what his vision is, and being supportive there. And at times maybe being more of a cheerleader and less of a driver into what we're doing. We're at East, and I have to be able to, make the decisions
for
the group. So there's certainly different things, but at the end of the day, hockey's hockey, and we're teaching, hopefully good habits and sending good messages that not only carries into their hockey but their everyday life too, and that's important whether you're working with a junior kid or a high school kid.
So is there a lot of mental pressure on a lot of these kids? Both high school and that now, you think? And back when you were playing, or you think there's a big difference? I do.
I think that there's pressure. I mean, there's so many more kids playing nowadays, and I mean, when I was growing up anyway, we didn't hear about too many kids coming out of Dallas and Los Angeles and Alabama and 4 or 5 teams out of Florida. There wasn't maybe roller hockey, but we didn't have all that. But the game's expanded too. I mean, there's 62 or 63 universities now with Division I hockey, and more looking to grow. So there are some more opportunities, and there's more opportunities in junior hockey. I would say if there's anything that's tougher to navigate, it's all the different leagues and all the different routes to these leagues. There's, especially up north, there's a handful of leagues that people run strictly for profit, and they really don't care about what's the results of the development side of it, so to speak. And so I think that's more difficult because there's more money involved now, and so
that, I mean,
more people taking advantage of that, I think.
I know it's the elite players, but I think it's tough on most of them that after high school, if they're an elite player and they start playing juniors, some of these kids get moved around 5-6 times in a couple of years. I mean, it's just kind of crazy to me. You never get settled in, and you get used to your billet family and you're liking it, and all of a sudden, what? And that's a mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, it's
especially
it's
Minnesota kids that say they all stayed home, where everyone else from someplace else always was on the road. They left home when they're 14, 15,
Right. That's, no doubt. And that's one thing I know, talking to coaches at higher levels that kind of drive them nuts when they do talk to Minnesota kids, when the Minnesota kids try to explain the romance of high school hockey and playing with your friends. You're trying to explain this to somebody who left home when they were 14 years old to live in somebody else's house, to try to make it. And so that doesn't necessarily always hit home as a great reason to not want to leave to go push yourself, I guess.
I saw the Wilderness probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, just under 10 times already. And I'll tell you what, this North American Hockey League, hockey fans have to go. Even if you're not a hockey fan, just go see a game. The up and down action. These kids don't stop. I mean, they know their job, and if they don't do it, they're not going to be dressing. So they're in there playing the whole game, and you're going to enjoy the way they play, because it's up and down fast,
Yep.
And it's unbelievable to me.
It's a good brand of hockey.
Yes.
And there's a lot of desperation in this league, because it's an older league, and so there's a lot of 20-year-olds that this is their last chance to make a difference, to try to get a chance to play college hockey. This is it for them. So you see that every weekend, that the desperation out of those older kids, that they're not giving up on their dreams, and they're fighting for that opportunity, and it's quite impressive to watch, to see what they are going through.
So you got to get out to the Northwood Credit Union. I might have said that wrong.
Yeah, Northwood's Credit Union Arena.
Yeah, and see the Wilderness, Minnesota Wilderness, and boy, I think you got games this weekend, don't you?
We're down in Janesville.
Oh, no, the weekend after.
Yeah, we're on the road this weekend.
Okay.
So.
But get out there and you'll really enjoy the play. Well, thank you, Coach Steve Pitoscia, for Duluth East head coach, and then assistant coach for the Minnesota Wilderness, for stopping by and on our Minnesota Hockey Connection show. And thank you, staff at PACT-TV, for producing the show, Vicky, Jim, and Lisa. And we'll see you at the rink.